God is the source.
Yeah.
We are the resource.
Okay.
What we create is the asset. But when you have a job, you become the asset. W. Edwards Demings, the man who helped revitalize Japan after World War II, said, systems under which people work account for 90% of the failure. Therefore, the key to success in any endeavor is to perfect the system. If your business has you wringing your hands, wanting to pull your hair out by the handfuls, because you've gotten started, it's making some money, it's successful, but you don't know how to grow it, today is your day. Because I have with me today in studio, systems scaling business growth maven, none other than Kewana McDonald. Kewana, so glad to have you here.
Hi, nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
So you help people, like, it's really interesting how there are different kinds of businesses.
Right.
But there are a couple of categories that Daniel Priestley talks about. And you help people transition from one type of business to another type of business. Absolutely. It's really fascinating that I discovered that a lot of people, because they're good at doing a job, they'll think they're good at running that business.
Right. And it's two separate things.
Totally different things.
Totally different things. It's like if you're not familiar with the concept that it's two different things, what you'll end up doing is building a job for yourself.
Buying and building a job.
Building.
And you can get a job for free. Why would you buy one? Literally. So what tends to happen is if someone is good at something,
they'll say, okay, I'll just get a few customers and do that thing for them. And then say, I have my own business. Not recognizing you actually have to build a business around what you're doing in order for it to grow. Like you have to actually build a business, and folk are like, well, what's the difference? Well, the difference lies in your peoples, your systems, and how you plan to continue that asset.
So let me ask you this.
Yeah.
So it sounds like, and I could be way off, and if I am, you can tell me. I've got thick skin, I can handle it. But it sounds like what you're saying is that the difference between a job and a business is a job is a task, but a business is a system which contains tasks.
Yeah. Well, and easier said, a business is an asset.
Right.
That's something that can bring you money whether you're working or not.
And so, but a job
is very owner dependent.
You are the asset.
See the problem?
But in the business is the asset.
And that's why they want to pull their hair out.
Because instead of owning a business, their alleged business owns them.
Correct.
What?
That's exactly what's happening. So people have built out jobs for themselves, and they've done well.
Sure.
They've probably done better than what their normal job would have paid them.
Right. So they have more money.
They have
less time and way more headache.
Period. And then think about it. When people go into starting business, they're trying to escape what they think is slavery, or they're trying to escape. They're trying to find their freedom just to build something that keeps them more enslaved. That doesn't make any sense. You need systems, you need people, you need to build a business, an asset around that so that you can actually have your freedom.
Okay, so how do you do that?
So I discovered a wonderful template in Genesis chapter 1.
Genesis chapter 1 has a lot of templates.
Listen. And, can I just give you a little backstory really quick?
Sure.
So
I love backstories, especially when they involve Genesis chapter 1.
Listen, so pretty much my mother, we were immigrants. We came over to this country, and she was a serial...
From where?
Jamaica.
Jamaica, man.
Yes. And she was a serial entrepreneur. I mean, she came, got a law degree, and started a law firm. She's done real estate.
Wow.
She's done... I've watched her just move and shape...
Classic overachiever.
In this country, okay? A brand new country where she had no family here. And I saw her do that. It was just her and I. We were kicking it. But I wanted time with her. And she was always so busy running her business. And so I thought to myself, as a child growing up, I said, hey, can I help you at work so that I can,
So we can do some stuff together.
I can have some time, And so she's like, sure. And I started to see all the inefficiencies in how she was doing things. And that's what sparked my wanting to free my mother. That's
Wow.
really what happened. I wanted
That's
to
so
free
fascinating.
her from all this work. And so I started to study. Myron, I went and got my global MBA. Like I got an award.
I've never heard that phrase before. What's a global MBA?
I'm going to tell you. So I went to high school and I did every business elective they offered. I got an award for that. Then I went to undergrad and did international business to learn more about that because the economy was moving in that direction. And then I went and got my global MBA. They started a global MBA program at my alma mater and called me on my cell phone and said, would you be one of the pioneer people in this program?
Wow.
So we helped build out that program.
Wow.
Yeah. So they took business global. I've been to China, South Africa, all those things. And in all of that, Myron, they weren't giving me what I was looking for. Do you know where I found it?
No.
In the Bible.
Well,
Genesis chapter 1.
it's kind of amazing.
Yes.
Genesis chapter 1 is kind of packed.
And listen, and I'm just like, the world has yet to catch up. Okay.
Come on, Harry.
So they have a framework in
Catch up to the first chapter.
of Genesis. Come on. So in Genesis, we know it's the creation story. And the reason I landed there is because I was praying really hard, like, Lord, if you were to start a business today, how would you do it? How would you build it? He said, the same way I build anything. How did I build the world? Check that out. So I did. You'll notice in the beginning, everything was black, void, But let's go before that. In the beginning, God created. That word God is plural, Mark. It's plural. Elohim is plural.
Right.
God in 3 persons. They each had roles in order to build this out.
Go ahead with your bad self. I see you.
So there was the visionary, the person who just knew God the Father. Then there was the implementer, Jesus. Not anything was made but by him, the Word. And then there was the evaluator, the Holy Spirit, who moved upon the face of the water. Why was he doing that? He was evaluating the circumstance, evaluating the situation. Come on. Don't get me excited. So one, I always tell my clients, do not build a business alone. You need a mentor. You need an implementer. You need certain people in your space to actually build this business. Too many solopreneurs start off building a job and then try to turn it into a business. And they have no implementer, they have no evaluator, because the mentor will help you evaluate. You see, they have no one in place. They're doing it by themselves. And if God didn't do anything by himself, who are we?
Well,
to try and do things by ourselves.
It's interesting. When God put Adam to sleep, he said it's not good for man to be alone.
Period.
And obviously God knows everything, so that's how he knew it wasn't good for man to be alone.
Exactly.
But you know how else God knew it wasn't good for man to be alone?
How?
Because man is made in the image of God, and it wasn't good for God to be alone.
And that's, you get it. So let's start there.
Okay.
So then we're like,
I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Right, you need to just bring some folk into place, okay? You need a good mentor, you need a good implementer, you need all of that.
Wow.
But then,
I've studied Genesis chapter 1 a little bit, but I missed that part. But keep going. Okay.
So then you have null and void. Everything is dark, So you need that vision, right? Light. You need to know and have clarity on where you're going with this business. Too many people, they're like, I just want to escape. Okay, that's great. But after you escape, then what? Like, what are you growing to? You need to plan that out.
People know what they're running from, but they have no idea what they're running to.
Think about it, Myron. How did God know what to build on each day of the week?
Well, I can think of a couple of answers.
Yeah, but let's keep it simple. He had a plan.
Right.
He had to know what he was going to do.
Was
yeah.
Before he started working on it.
And he knew what he was going to do each day of the week.
Looked like.
Period.
Right.
And he knew what he was looking for. That's why at the end of each day he could say it was good.
Right.
Because he knew.
And it was good because it was done. And it was all done.
And it was all done.
He didn't save any of day one's work for day two.
That part. Why? Because there was a plan. People don't take that time to plan that out too well. And I help my clients plan out, I call it a blueprint for their business. It's better than a business plan because God knows those don't work. I'm sorry.
A business plan is a guess.
Right. It might help you get some money at a bank, but everybody's guessing out here in these streets, okay? That's what's happening. So it's better than that, So we build out a blueprint for that purpose. Okay. So then you move on, right? You had day 1, let there be light. You have your blueprint. Day 2, firmament. folk are like, what that got to do with business? Well, the firmament was a form of protection on what was out there in outer space and what was going on in here. Do you know how many businesses don't have their things protected, don't have their IPs protected? They don't have their employment contracts to protect themselves. They don't have, I'm just saying, they don't have these things in place at all. So now we have to help them do that.
No E&O insurance.
Oh. And do you know there are insurances where if you have key people in your business and some of them go or they're in the hospital or whatever, you have insurance to cover that?
Right.
They don't.
Right.
So we have to help set that up. Because before God even built the thing, he made sure he had his protections.
It was covered.
He was covered. It was covered. Myron.
Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
So that's the firmament, right? So that's day 2.
You know you're doing a lot right now.
Listen, I get excited, okay?
No.
I get it.
I couldn't tell.
You could tell I geek out.
Couldn't
okay,
tell.
so day 3 now, he made like the trees and the grass and the earth and all those kinds of things. And I always wondered, I said, he built that before he brought in the sun, moon, and stars and the trees and the grass. They need the sun, moon, and stars. Like, why would he flip that? It was intentional, clearly, because God does everything intentionally. Let me tell you why. Because
tell
the
me why.
3 people, God in 3 persons, and now they're covered, they had to build out the system. That was the system. Think about it. The way the trees are, you plant a seed, the seed grows.
Don't get me started.
The tree bears fruit. In the fruit is a seed that can get planted, and that's a system. That's his system for growth. So he made sure he set all of that in place. And then, day 4, he brought the sun, moon, and stars. My favorite part. Let me tell you why.
Do tell.
Those are the managers.
That's what he said. The greater light
Those
to
are the
rule the day,
managers.
the lesser light to rule the night.
But
And God
do you
made the
know-
stars also.
But do you know most small business owners, when they're hiring, they skip right to team members. They don't hire management. And that is where the break-off happens. Because if you hire managers, your managers can still do the thing if you don't hire any team members under them. But if you skip over them and just hire team members, when you're trying to scale and grow, you're going to have an issue because of middle management, because it's still going to be dependent on you. You're going to end up having to be the manager. It's crazy. This is why when Daniel Priestley did his study on key person of influence, and we was talking about the 2 different types of businesses, performance versus lifestyle. Lifestyle, they don't have middle managers. You need middle managers to have performance. If you want freedom, that is.
Right. Because
I mean, if that's what you want.
Well, if he made the greater light to rule the day, the lesser light to rule the night. That's a delegation of authority right there.
Period. That's your management system. And then, of course, the fun part now, the team members, which are the
God
animals.
Made the stars. Oh, okay. I thought you were going to say God made the stars also.
Well, I there's so many different types of managerial roles and everything that we
That
can.
makes sense, yeah.
But you got your sea creatures, your animals, and they're all part of the team to make the system work. What's deep though is, Myron, you want to hear something crazy?
I don't know if I
You want me to give you a little nugget?
You're already like rearranging the furniture in my head.
You want me to give you a little nugget? So, do you notice, because you work with business owners, right? Do you notice that when they're trying to transition from a lifestyle business, as Priestley would say, to a performance business, there's all this turnover in who they have to rehire? Okay. And people wonder why that's the case. Well, it's the case because when you look at animals, their circadian rhythm is tied to the sun, to the moon. Do you notice that? It's connected. So when you rip that middle management out and hire new ones, they have to rearrange how they connect and how they come together. So if you don't have middle management and it's you and the team member, the minute you try to put middle management in, there's going to be resistance. There's going to be an issue because their circadian rhythm was tied to you. Do you see what I mean?
Do you see this look on my face?
But do you see you understand what I'm saying?
Fully and completely.
So that's why I always tell business owners, my clients, let's hire your middle management first. And then let's include them on hiring the rest of the team. And if by chance you have to replace anybody, your middle management, I don't know, they moved on, they're retiring, whatever the case may be, then we just have to find someone very similar to who it is. And there are things you can look for to make sure that the transition is a bit smoother, right? But here's what's even crazy, because I'm just going through Genesis. On day 6, then we have God brought man into play, right? That's your C-suite. That's when you move from being, the business owner to now a seat of advisor, because you have your C-suite there to take over. And that's why they have to be made in your image to make sure it all runs. So it's just a nice little template that we use that I'm telling you, I've been to school. I haven't seen it anywhere.
I am so not used to people breaking my brain with the Bible, especially not my favorite chapter of the Bible. And you just broke my brain.
Wow. But isn't it cool? Isn't it amazing? So yeah, and then I get my hands all in it and we get excited and we just help business thrive. Yeah, and grow. That's what we do.
She came out swinging, didn't she? She came out swinging like hard, fast, and continuously.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
You didn't even let me come up for air.
I'm sorry. I get excited. You had to jump in, Myron.
So, say more about how you actually apply this. Here's what I mean. Mm-hmm. People think that the Bible is about religion. Clearly, you know it's not. Mm-hmm. It contains religion, but it's not about religion.
Right.
It's clearly about principles. It's a book about government. The Bible is a book of government because It's a book about a king. A king is not a religious figure. A king is a governmental figure. It's a book about a kingdom. It's a book about a royal family. It's a book about the culturalization of a foreign land called Earth. Mm-hmm. And so it's filled with principles like the ones you just broke down, patterns like the one you just broke down, promises if you apply these principles and model these patterns.
Oh, yeah.
You can expect these predictable productivities or predictable productions.
Absolutely.
Products.
Absolutely.
So now that you broke all that down, tell me what some of those, from your perspective in dealing with these businesses, what some of those roles look like as you're helping people systematize their business to take it from lifestyle to performance-based.
Got it. Well, I would have to first start with their mindset.
Okay.
Because to do this takes a level of faith. Right, because it's not how.
Do what takes a level of faith?
To
transition.
To transition in this way, to say this is a template that God has given us, and we're going to transition in this way, takes a level of faith because it is going to be counterintuitive to what you see in the world. It's going to be different, and let me explain what I mean. We go into how do you relate to your managers? How should your managers relate to your team members? We got to start there, because when we then hire the right people inside of your system, there has to be a way and a role of what role you play and how to make sure that everyone does what they're supposed to do.
Give me an example of what you mean when you say how you relate to your managers and your managers relate to their teams.
Sure. So I've had clients that come to me and we're mapping out everything. We mapped out their blueprint. We know who needs to be in place, and it's time to hire their managers. And when we're hiring the managers and the managers start, I always say start probationary. Make sure, because you can fire fast if it really isn't working out. You always got a test run. So let's say you're working out. I notice that my clients will then start giving them tasks to do.
Your clients will give who tasks to do?
Their managers that they just hired. I need you to do X, Y, X, Y, Z. And I say, whoa. You can't. You're taking away your freedom again. You hired managers to manage. Let them do their job.
So let
I
the
think
managers create the systems for their teams.
let the managers follow your systems and then go and take it where it needs to, as long as it aligns with your vision. Let me explain why. If you
Before
have,
you explain why,
yeah.
you need to explain to me what. Like, I don't, I
Okay.
hear what you're saying, but I don't know what you mean.
Let me give
And if
a-
I don't know what you mean, I think maybe some other people may
That's
not
no
know what you
problem.
mean.
That's no problem. So here we go. Let me give an example. I was talking to, I have a client that's an accountant.
Okay.
Okay. She was building out her business. I counseled with her and everything. We coached her, all the things. And she had a manager in place. Every day she would say, I'm talking with her. She would say, wait, I have to tell her list of duties for today. And I said, why do you have to tell your manager the list of duties she has to perform for that day? Well, because it depends on, and she started to list all these dependencies. And I said, you're treating your manager like a team member and not a manager. When you have a manager, all you have to tell your manager is your vision. I need for this to happen. I need for us to be able to take care of the taxes of these 50 people. We have 50 clients, their taxes need to be done. You do not give them the task day to day of how to get that done. They are managers. They are managers. They know your systems. You've trained them on your systems that you created. And now they have to run with it. Why? A lot of people step in because they're like, I don't want them to fail at it. I don't want them to mess up. And I said, that's why you fire fast. But the truth of the matter is, for your freedom's sake, you must let them manage. You cannot micromanage your managers. That your freedom will go out the window. So what do? You make sure the vision is in place. They make sure they know what they have to do, and they go with it. I do not give my team tasks. They create their own tasks.
Your team is your managers.
Yeah.
And then the manager's team is the team.
Exactly. They create their own tasks to get from A to B, because I told them we need to go to B. They create their tasks. In fact, sometimes they give me tasks. We need this from you. We need that from you in order to continue to do that. That's how it's supposed to work. Do you understand? And then you have your freedom.
Yeah.
I can be here talking with you, and they can take care of the clients. They can take care of everything.
And you can go on vacation for a month and stuff will still get done.
The funniest thing is I went on vacation, I think it was only for like a week. Only for like a week. Mm-hmm. And the people I was there with a few business owners, and every time we're like, oh, let's go do this, they're like, wait, let me just check really quick. My phone was off for the whole week. I did not have to check in. I did not have to. And when I came back, my clients were served and happy. They were like, by the way, I was working with so-and-so, and they helped me with this, and it was amazing. That's how a business should run. Like an asset. So you have your freedom.
I love everything you just
said. Yeah. So you want to, when I say relate to your managers, it looks different depending on the industry, and I work with a few different industries.
I probably look like a calf staring at a new gate right now, don't I?
but it's how you relate to them. We don't recognize that the way we're relating to people, we're either holding them accountable or we're micromanaging, and they're not the same thing.
Okay, talk about that difference so people can understand what you mean.
Okay.
I get it, what you just said.
Okay.
Talk about it.
So when you're holding someone accountable, you're saying this is the standard that you must reach. And you make sure they have the tools and everything they need to get there. And if they miss the mark, you let them know. You missed the mark. That's holding someone accountable. That's not fixing it for them. That's holding them accountable, and they will fix it to get there because they are managers. Micromanaging is when you already come in assuming they're not going to miss the mark. They're going to miss the mark, You already assume they're not going to make it. And so you try to do it this way, do it that way, do it this way, because that's probably what worked for you. And you want them to do it that way. And I'm like, listen, David couldn't use Saul's armor. Okay? He had to do his own thing. I hired them. They need to use whatever armor they need to use. They need to just get there. That's it.
So cool.
And so I have to really coach my clients on how to relate to the team and how it's going to all work together, because it's different.
Right.
It's different than what they're used to. They're used to going to jobs where they feel micromanaged. And they take that with them. We gotta change that. Especially now, where people can make money on YouTube, the people you're hiring, they want autonomy.
So talk to me about how the manager then manages the team.
And that's part of culture, right? What culture did you set up? So if you're in a business culture, like, let me use an example, Netflix, for instance. In the beginnings of Netflix, they didn't even have like set days off and set all that. They created a culture where people wanted to work, was there, would overachieve, and whenever they took off, it didn't affect the outcomes because they were very outcome oriented. But they created that culture. Whatever culture you create and the people you hire that fit into that culture, that is what the managers are going to use, and it's going to spread out for the rest of the team. So depending on who you are as the godhead of your business, per se, that culture is what is going to permeate through the managerial team and the lower level team.
Okay. So the implementation team, basically.
Yeah, the implementation.
So let me ask you this question then. So you say that's the culture that's going to permeate. So are you saying that like the founder, owner, CEO, whatever, they give objectives to the management team. The management team then gives objectives to the implementation team as opposed to giving them tasks to do?
Exactly.
And that way the managers also have freedom. Everybody has freedom of, what's the word I'm looking for? Execution.
Yeah.
But with a predetermined objective.
Yeah, you got to start with objective. They have to know where they're going. How do you feel, Myron, when you get a task to do and you don't understand where it fits in or what's the purpose? Like, anytime you get a task and you don't even know what the purpose of the task is, how do you even go at that task? You're like, I don't. What is?
Well, but how do I go at it? I can't.
Yeah.
But that's not how everybody operates. So like, even before we started this conversation, had you come into my office, we had a conversation about what's our objective for the purpose of this interview, this conversation. What's our objective? Right? And so I couldn't, but some people, in a lot of businesses, I would say probably a high percentage of the people, maybe not a majority, maybe a majority of the people, want to know what task to do. And that's because that's what people usually do when they go to...
I get it. But if you have that task in a vacuum and they don't see the greater good of it, the purpose that would drive them goes low. And you end up with workers who treat your company like a job, as opposed to
taking ownership of an aspect of the business, which is their objective to achieve.
Exactly. So if they understand, even down to when you have the implementation team, if they don't understand how what they do affects the whole ecosystem of the business, you'll see a difference in their performance. You will literally see lower performance than someone who feels like they have a purpose, especially today where a lot of these new generations coming up into the work, they're very purpose-driven.
I think probably everybody is purpose-driven, whether they know it or not.
And that's true. But before, like in the industrial age and everything like that, the purpose was really very much so I go to work, I get a paycheck, I go home.
I can feed my family. Yeah.
I have to feed my family. Right. But now
so the work was simply an exchange of energy for compensation.
But we're moving from that phase now.
Right.
People can go on YouTube and make money.
Oh, I know.
Like and that's what's happening in our economy right now. People are like, how do I find good workers? How do I find good? You have to switch how you relate to who you're about to hire.
So have you written a book on this?
I'm writing one.
Yeah, when's it going to be done?
It needs to be done by the end of this year.
End of this year?
Yes, it needs to be
so
done.
now it's my turn to coach you. End of this year? What is that?
Yeah.
What is that? No.
Well, what's happening is I'm getting asked to speak a lot.
Okay.
And so I'm like, okay, I have to carve out the time
So
to
one of
finish
the things
book.
we're going to do.
Yes.
One of the things we're going to do.
Yes.
While you're here.
Okay.
For this time when we're done filming.
Yes.
I'm going to coach you on how to get your book done like in the next 30 days.
We can do that.
A year.
If you could
to
do
write
that.
a book. My first book took me 3 days to write. Trash Man to Cash Man, I wrote that book in 3 days.
Well, Myron, let's do that. Because people want my book, and I have my book there.
I am one of those people.
Oh, wow. Wow, yes.
Do you have a title?
I've changed it around so many times.
Okay, we'll talk about that.
Yeah. I've changed it around so many times.
So, someone who hasn't started a business yet. So I'm thinking about all the stuff you said.
Yes.
Someone who hasn't started a business yet. So they're going to start a business. They're going to hire their management team first.
No.
Okay.
The first thing they're going to do is make sure they have a mentor.
Okay.
And they're going to make sure they have an implementer.
Okay.
You got to work with the implementer, and a mentor to help you evaluate. Mm-hmm. And so their implementation, whoever their implementer, I would say would probably be like their executive assistant.
Okay.
Okay, if I were to put a title to it.
Mm-hmm.
And it would be geared to whatever industry you're in. So for instance, my executive assistant, and I have two. I have one that deals with my overseas operations and one that deals with my American domestic. Okay, but you want an executive assistant that mirrors your industry. So if you're my accountant, her executive assistant knows and understands accounting.
Okay.
Right? She wouldn't necessarily use mine. Mine definitely understand operations on levels,
Got it.
If you are a branding person, your executive assistant must understand the industry, must understand branding. They must understand. You get where I'm saying.
I get it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's where you start. You start with those three people.
You start there.
And then you generate enough revenue from what those three people bring to the table to then start hiring the management team.
That part.
And the management team is somebody who knows how to work towards an objective.
Correct. Whatever that vision is. Because with those three, you've built out your vision.
And then they hire team members to run aspects of what they're managing.
And they work with you to hire that team.
No, I understand that part.
Yeah.
I understand that part. Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Because you want to make sure it works.
Because I was wondering if a person's getting started and they're going to hire their management team first, where are they getting this money from?
No. You start with those. But people have asked me, how do I first hire my executive assistant? Mm-hmm. Right? Like, and my mentor, how do I hire them? I said,
let's talk about that.
I love that question, because what I do is I say to them, hey, do you at least know what you're trying to offer to the world? Whatever service, whatever product, whatever. Do you at least know in your brain what your system should look like? Go land a deal. And land a deal with your team in mind. So when people go and say, this is what I can do. I'm a plumber. Let's say I'm a plumber. It's just you right now. You got the idea. You know how it's going to say. They will go ahead and land a deal with only enough income for themselves and wonder why they don't have any money to hire a team.
Because they didn't think about the fact that they were going to hire a team. They didn't go into it with that objective.
That part. So you now know you have a mentor and you have an executive assistant. Whether they're there or not is irrelevant. They're there. Okay? What is your price for the team to come and serve your client?
That's what you charge.
That's what you charge. Now you take that and you hire who you need to hire, and let's build from there.
So you can fulfill on the promises that you made to that client.
That part.
Because if you don't think about it from the team aspect, then you're going to be working 24 hours a day so you can meet that.
Now you built yourself a job.
Right. And you can get a job without building one. So why, yeah.
Isn't God wise?
Oh.
Isn't he amazing?
He's omniscient. He knows everything.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. All of that makes sense. So let's say we have somebody who's like I was when I first got started.
Okay.
You know, the best job you've ever had in your life is making $30,000 a year. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, you start this little side hustle. Mm-hmm. And it's not bringing in $30,000 a year. It's bringing in $30,000 a month.
Come on.
Okay, but it's still just you.
It's still just you.
Now, what's the first thing you do? Hire a mentor.
Yeah.
And then hire an executive
And
assistant.
hire an executive assistant. You got to start there. You got to start with building out your Godhead. Think about it, Myron.
So then,
Think
okay,
about
so
it.
so here, okay.
Okay.
So no, I'm processing this whole thing in my head while you're talking about this.
Yeah.
So it's so okay. So you've got your mentor, your executive assistant. You get ready to hire your managers. Why is it that your executive assistant is not frustrated because you hired somebody else to be the manager instead of them?
Oh, because they know their role. Like, that would be like saying, why is Jesus upset with the disciples, or Jesus upset with the sun, moon, and stars? They know their role. They know what part they're playing. You came in with that understanding. And when you build out your teams and everybody understands everyone's function, then the pair knife is not upset with the butcher knife. And I'm just trying to, you understand what I'm saying?
That was funny. That was funny.
You understand what I mean? They understand their role, their job. They love it. They're there. Right?
You got my brain in a totally different gear. Now I'm making food in the kitchen.
But you get what I mean?
I
The
do.
apple tree is not upset that it's
Can't
not a pear tree.
produce oranges. Yeah.
Yeah. The roles are there. I see you thinking.
Well, I'm envisioning everything you're saying, and I'm looking for holes that I can point out for the people who are watching us, so that as they think about, I'm looking for the holes they would look for.
Yeah, so we can fill
So
up.
we can have that conversation before this video ends, so that they've got the answers.
Got it.
Does that make sense?
Yep. So can I talk about an issue that I notice I get a lot of times when I'm helping people implement this?
Please talk about something, because I'm over
Look,
here
God
lost in the
is a complete
sauce.
God.
I'm over here lost in the sauce with my paring knife and my butcher knife.
God is a complete God. But what I've noticed, and I mentioned it before about having faith, what I noticed.
You did say that.
What I noticed is when we're starting to hire people. See, people say they want to grow, and they say, I need help, right? But what they don't want is the accountability of having that person on payroll. And it subconsciously, it messes with them. So it's like, but if I hire this person.
That used to be me. How am I going to pay them?
Yeah, now I have to continue to pay them.
How do I know I'm going to be able to continue
to pay them, right? And they don't recognize that that's oftentimes what's holding them back from even making their first hire.
Yeah, that used to be me. But well, you know what I discovered?
What did you discover?
Every time I hired somebody, I made more money.
Period.
Because I got more done.
Period.
And I had to do less work to get it done.
That part. And that's what I try to tell them. But how I come from the angle of faith versus fear.
Okay.
If you do anything in fear, it will end up sooner or later in failure. But if you do anything with faith, you will get your freedom. You know the story in the Bible about the children of Israel, slaves in Egypt, not because they were captured, but because Joseph brought them there.
People who are watching me right now think I'm looking at you like I don't like you, but I'm, I'm really paying very close attention. Okay.
But you understand that story, right? And you saw what happened to Pharaoh. So Pharaoh, the new Pharaoh, who knew not Joseph, right, that Pharaoh.
How quickly they forget.
Okay, he was very fearful. So because he was fearful, he enslaved the children of Israel. Now, one would say that he prospered for hundreds of years off of the backs of slaves, right? But what happened at the end of his kingdom?
He lost his child and all the firstborn in Egypt. He lost everything because they got spoiled.
First
he
of all,
lost everything.
He lost his
everything.
workforce.
And then he lost his life.
He lost it landed in failure because it started on fear. So even if it seems like you'll get ahead a little bit because you're being cautious, no. Make sure you know what cautious means versus fear. And do what you have to do. That's why I said it takes faith. You have to believe that when you...
Define what you mean when you say faith. I get it, but I don't want to assume that they get it.
You have to believe that if you're doing it God's way, he says you need an implementer. You need this help. You're not to do it alone, right? If you hire that person like you so lived, you will always have more money to pay them. Why? Because they're doing more. You're producing more. You're serving more, and you will bring in more income. And then you just make sure that you have your accountant and everybody in place. We talk about protections and all that stuff, in order to make sure you're being a good steward of the funds that are coming in so you can pay everybody. But it always multiplies, Myron. It multiplies. We live in a time of abundance. When you do it God's way, abundance.
That what you just said.
Yes.
Is a core belief that people, if they are going to become all that they can become, which what you can become, who you can become is infinite.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, you can never max out your potential, because as soon as you fulfill more potential, it gives you more potential to fulfill.
Correct.
Okay. So as a direct result of that, I don't think people realize that God created an ever-expanding universe. We are not running out of resources.
No.
Because the source is infinite.
Right.
The resource has the potential to be infinite.
Right.
We don't run out of resources, we run out of resourcefulness.
That part. Because God he built his system on multiplication.
Multiplication, reproduction.
All of it.
Exponential
Growth.
Geometric progression.
This is why work multiplies. Do you think about it? Like you do something, you start a business to solve a problem, and way more problems come up.
Right. Because every solution creates new problems.
It's
the perturbation of productivity.
And it's a multiplier of opportunities.
Exactly.
And that's what people have to understand, that when you hire the right people, you're multiplying your opportunities for more income. And when you're bringing in that
because now you have more people to solve more problems more efficiently and in less time. More quickly.
Exactly. And now you're building an asset.
And more effortlessly.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So, interesting. I was just thinking about this yesterday. God is the source.
Yeah.
We are the resource.
Okay.
What we create is the asset. But when you have a job, you become the asset instead of the resource.
Isn't that terrible?
And if you're the asset, if you are your only asset, what you will be able to accomplish in your life will always be limited.
Yeah. And do you know what else happens?
I don't.
It's
when
called
you tell me, we'll both know.
Burnout.
Right.
Because we weren't even built for all of that. We were built to
for a focused purpose.
Yes.
For a particular purpose.
Yes. And our goal is to literally, protect that focus that we're here for. So let's start with a new business, right? Like we were talking about before. And you're hiring your managers. And a lot of people, when they start a new business, they have a lot of generalists. People that can do a few different things, right? And they're like, this is great. But the minute they're trying to transfer over to performance-based, I'm using these terms because, I'm assuming y'all are going to read the book. But okay.
Daniel Priestley's key person of influence is what she's talking about.
I'm assuming. But when they're transferring, what the rift is because performance leads to specialization. You can't have a whole bunch of generalists running things.
So interesting.
And so you get what you understand.
It reminds me of Smith & Wesson. It reminds me of Henry Ford. It reminds me of how America became the most productive nation in the world. I don't know if you know the story about Smith & Wesson. I'm pretty sure it was Smith & Wesson. They had a gun manufacturing business, and they were manufacturing revolvers. And one person would make a gun start to finish, and they might have 7 people making a gun, or 15 people that each made a gun, but none of the guns were the same.
That's right.
Because they were all made by different people.
That's right.
And then Smith & Wesson figured out, what if I just have one person who makes triggers, one person who makes barrels, one person who makes
specialization.
And specialization. And if I have one person that focuses on building, they were able to build like 15 times more guns.
Absolutely.
And one part from one gun fit every other gun.
That's right, because it was a standard. That's biblical. So like, this is
Everything
why
reproduces after its own kind.
that part.
Is
this
that the
is
standard
why,
you were talking about?
Yes, because when you plant an apple tree, how crazy would it be if you got a banana tree? That would be
Right.
you can't scale that. You can only scale a standard.
Scaling anything is based on predictability of outcome.
That part. And that's why we have to help you build out your systems, build out your people, make sure that they're in their specified roles so the pair knife is not upset with the butcher knife. You know, all those things we have to put into place. But many times, as I said, people come to me, they already have something going, so we have to like rebuild and restructure and then get them going. But once that happens, ooh, the turnaround. Listen, this one client I had came. He was doing very well for himself, actually. He was already making about $9 million a year. And he said, and this year, he started with me the beginning of last year. He said, this year, I'm going to bring in $13 million, you know, because that was his projected.
He
was his projected growth.
That's like $4 extra million.
Well, listen, I asked the question because I need to know the benchmark. Because I want them to see the value of what we're about to do.
Okay.
He worked with me 5 months. Myron, he brought in $28 million.
In 5 months.
5 months. Another small business owner I had, they weren't making millions. They were literally just kind of starting out. So maybe a couple $1,000s here or there. By the time we built out everything and let them know, they literally brought in 6 figures in 2 months.
And how much were they bringing in before?
A couple thousand. They literally brought in enough to hire me. That's what happened. That was it. And I was just like, okay, no problem. Let's do this. And we went through the template, but I do have my way of implementation, of course, we do that 2 months. Because once you know how it's supposed to be, it's predictable. The outcomes are predictable. And again, I'm not even talking about monetary outcomes per se. God will bring that blessing. But the productivity will...
The monetary outcome is just it's the benefit of the productivity.
And that's what I'm saying. You get the results. So you can tell I have fun. Yeah.
I can tell.
So once you have those things set in place, literally you feel like the sky is the limit because it is. Like,
and the sky is infinite, which means there is no limit.
There is no limit. There is no limit.
The guy that was doing $9 million that went to $28 million in 5 months, is that your like greatest like super fast turnaround, or do you have other ones like that?
One person I worked with, I would say for me, fulfillment wise, this one person I worked with, one of my clients, this was 2 years ago, went through some tough times, and she was going to lose everything in her business, okay? And she had about $21 million worth of contracts on the table. And I had to go in to her systems, and I had to actually do that myself because it was so dire. And we were able, in about 4 months, to save all $21 million of her contracts.
Wow.
And keep that running for her until she was able to fulfill all her contracts.
Wow.
To me, that was the most fulfilling and drastic, because it's like, see, with him, with the $9 million, he had something going on, and there was no like detrimental issue. Because you understand in business, like you could go up and down depending on the market, depending on everything of that nature. And she got hit with an unexpected personal life circumstance. And for me to be able to do that, that's what
game on.
I was just so grateful for that. So to me, that was the most impactful situation I've been in. But it doesn't change the fact that helping other folks just get better, it helps. The other thing is, with that template that we talk about, and I created in a blueprint for everyone to follow, the beautiful thing is you can become proactive as opposed to reactive. Because once you have a blueprint, that's what it is. When the market shifts or the market changes, you're able to look at your blueprint and say, okay, that's going to cause a rift here. We need to pivot this way. And you can say to your management team, we need to pivot here. And you don't have to retrain, because they understand the blueprint. They understand the vision. They're like, done. And they can pivot really quickly so that they're not headed down for a loss all the time. And that's the beautiful thing about doing things God's way. Many times when you're dealing with systems and people, everyone is very reactionary. This went bad. Now we got to probably fire that person. As opposed to being able to predict your outcomes and say, that's going to affect this. We need to pivot.
Got it.
So that's why you need a mentor. How many people could you have saved if they came to you first before trying to build out something crazy?
Yeah. Bunch.
Exactly. So, yeah.
So, where can people go to find out more about how you can help them?
Sure.
What you have to offer them?
Sure.
How they can work with you?
Sure. So, I am doing a challenge.
Okay.
And they can go to www.growyourbusinesschallenge.live.
Growyourbusinesschallenge.live.
They can go there, register there.
Mm-hmm.
I always say get the VIP.
Okay.
And the reason is because they can come with their questions.
So different levels.
Yeah, they're different levels.
Okay.
So there's general admission.
How much is that?
That's about $97.
$97, okay.
But if they come in at VIP,
How much is VIP?
$297.
Okay.
They're
How many
able
VIPs can you handle?
I can only
you
handle
said-
40 at a time.
Okay, 40 VIPs.
Yeah, because we go in.
Okay.
They'll come with their questions, and I'm like,
Sure.
you need to restructure, you need to change that up. You know what I mean? I really want to give them that time. And so
How many days? How is it? Is it like 7 hours a day for a month? Like
no, it's so the VIP is an hour.
I mean the challenge.
The challenge is 2 hours a day, and it's only 4 days. So
Okay.
the VIP gets an hour, and then
The general
yeah, everybody gets that
for 4
second
days.
hour. Yeah, for 4 days.
Okay.
Okay. And we just go into what it looks like to really grow your business and what you need in place. So that's why I always say you want to hurry up and grab the VIP because we change lives there. I've had people come on my VIPs and they've made they have saved themselves $100,000 at a time just by a question they asked me on VIP. So I really try to, help. My goal is to annihilate the business failure rate here. It doesn't have to be.
Doesn't have to be.
It doesn't have to be.
Doesn't have to be 80% of businesses fail in the first 5
Period.
years.
It doesn't have to
That's
be.
a ridiculous stat, by the way. I hate it.
It's terrible. But, I mean, there are so many reasons why that stat is that way.
100.
But one of the reasons I've noticed, especially how the number gets higher when you're in business longer.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
It does.
Oh, it does?
Burnout.
Oh, there you go.
Burnout.
Right, because
people
you didn't do it
can't,
right in the first place.
You didn't put it up in the front end where you had your systems and people in place. There's but so much you can run the rat race for. How long can you run a marathon for real?
Right. Yeah.
I met with a woman.
I think about 27 and a half miles.
I was talking to another business owner, prominent in my city. Grew her business to maybe 2-3 million over 20 years.
Wow, that's a long time for 2 or 3 million.
Exactly. When I spoke to her and I was sharing some of these principles, she was like, "Where were you? Where were you 5 years ago? Even you could have saved me, helped me so much." And when she said that to me, I recognized I have to get out there. I have to, because right now it's just been word of mouth, Myron. People are like, "She done made me an extra $15 million. You need to hire her." That's what's been going on. But now I'm like, I really need to tell.
Yeah.
The people.
Well, Kewana, this has been one of the most brain-breaking conversations I think I've ever had. It was fun.
I love it. I love it.
So y'all go to growyourbusinesschallenge.live. Growyourbusinesschallenge.live. Check out Kewana's challenge. Ask her questions. Sign up as a VIP and get your business growing finally. Kewana, thank you again. It's been a pleasure.
It's been great.
Wow,
great.
what a great conversation.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, we'll see you in the next video, folks. Bye for now.